Okay, so today we're going to deep dive into something a little different.
Right.
Our listeners have shared
Yeah.
a pretty detailed personal account with us
Oh, cool.
from a YouTube video, and the title is kind of a mouthful.
Okay.
It's Jesus took me to the tribulation and gave me a glimpse of what's to come. I had this visitation, 2014.
Wow.
And this is from a user named Brandon on a channel called Last Days.
Interesting.
So think of this as like exploring a very vivid and like detailed report.
Okay.
Our mission is to really unpack like the core of Brandon's experience.
Yeah.
Which he says happened on July 6th, 2014.
Okay.
And we're going to break down what he says he saw and heard about a period known as the Tribulation.
Exactly. And it's important for our listeners to understand that we're approaching this as we would any piece of information you bring us.
Right.
We're going to try to understand its content.
Yeah.
The sequence of events as described and recurring themes.
Right.
We're not here to pass judgment on whether Brandon's experience was quote-unquote real or not.
Right.
But just to explore what he recounts.
Yeah, just to take a look at it.
Yeah.
So to set the scene, Brandon's account begins in a town.
Okay.
He doesn't specify where.
Mm-hmm.
And he's standing there with Jesus.
Okay.
He mentions a big white building.
Okay.
But what immediately grabs his attention is the sky.
Okay.
He describes it as alive with like moving lightning. And he said that created a really spooky atmosphere.
Oh, wow.
So like right away, there's this sense of fear and panic. People are running and screaming in terror.
That immediate and overwhelming sense of fear and societal breakdown that Brandon describes really highlights a common theme in apocalyptic narratives.
Yeah.
Like the swift and brutal collapse of familiar order.
Yeah.
And the active sky and the panic of the people really set a dramatic tone right from the start.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Then a woman comes up to him.
Oh, wow.
And says that aliens took the Christians. Brandon, understandably, is taken aback by that.
Of course.
And what's interesting here is that she can see Brandon.
Okay.
But she can't see Jesus, who is standing right there next to him.
Wow.
So this idea of selective visibility is kind of a curious detail that we'll see pop up again.
So the introduction of the alien abduction explanation is certainly a distinctive element.
It is.
It makes you wonder about how people might interpret widespread disappearances in a modern, secularized world.
Yeah.
Perhaps Brandon is seeing one potential way that this event could be explained or misinterpreted.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
And the chaos really escalates quickly.
Okay.
Brandon sees the town in complete disarray.
Oh, wow.
Fires everywhere. Cars and buildings are burning.
Oh, my God.
There's smoke filling the air, and there's widespread looting.
It sounds like a scene from a movie.
Yeah, it's total societal breakdown.
Yeah.
And throughout this initial scene, Jesus doesn't speak audibly. Instead, Brandon says that he perceives Jesus's thoughts through their joined hands.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
The absence of direct verbal communication from Jesus at this stage is notable.
Yeah.
It keeps the focus on Brandon's direct sensory experience of this catastrophic event.
Right.
And the idea of understanding through touch could also suggest a deep, perhaps even spiritual connection beyond words.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
So then just like that,
Yeah.
Brandon and Jesus are suddenly transported to Europe, specifically overlooking Berlin.
Berlin.
This is a major shift in his vision.
Yeah.
Moving from like immediate local chaos to a focus on global leadership.
This sudden shift in location and focus suggests a rapid transition in world events.
Right.
Moving from the initial shock to the geopolitical consequences, the choice of Berlin, a historically significant center of European power, is also an interesting detail.
Definitely. And in Berlin, Brandon sees world leaders gathered around a round brown table.
Okay.
In what looks like an office setting.
Okay.
And then a key figure emerges.
Okay.
A Middle Eastern man in a gray suit.
Interesting.
Brandon describes this man as instructing the leaders on how to handle the ongoing chaos and the rioting.
So he's kind of stepping into a leadership role.
He's portrayed as powerful and wise, someone offering solutions.
Right.
And the leaders are looking to him for guidance.
The description of this figure as a Middle Eastern man stepping into a leadership vacuum during this global crisis is a significant element.
Yeah.
It touches on various interpretations of end times prophecy that anticipate a prominent role for a figure from this region.
Yeah, for sure.
And the gray suit kind of offers an image of understated authority.
Yeah. Not flashy, but authoritative.
Exactly.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Brandon says that the Lord showed him a scripture about kingdoms being given to this leader within 1 hour.
Wow, that's fast.
I know.
1 hour.
He doesn't specify the exact verse.
Okay.
But the implication is clear. A swift and decisive transfer of power on a global scale.
Yeah.
Following this, the scene changes again.
Okay.
And now this man is appearing on television.
On TV.
Yeah.
The idea of a rapid consolidation of power, almost instantaneously, certainly speaks to a moment of profound global instability and a desperate search for order.
Yeah, they need somebody.
Yeah.
They need someone to lead them.
Exactly.
So this Middle Eastern man is now a global figure.
Okay.
He's being broadcast on major news networks like CNN and Fox.
Wow.
And he's providing an explanation for the disappearance of people.
Okay.
He claims that the Christians were rebellious and it's been taken away as punishment.
Okay, so that's his spin on it.
That's his spin, yeah.
Okay.
And then he declares himself the new world leader.
That didn't take long.
Nope.
The narrative here offers a specific interpretation of the mass disappearance, framing it within a context of judgment.
Right.
And the immediate declaration of global leadership highlights the audacity and swiftness of his ascent to power in Brandon's vision.
Absolutely. And Brandon also shares his own personal feeling at this point.
Okay.
He describes a void of peace descending upon the earth after this event.
Okay.
Something profoundly different from anything he's ever experienced.
Like a spiritual void.
Yeah. And he believes that this new leader is attempting to fill that void with a false peace.
Okay.
That people desperately crave in their fear and torment.
I see.
But this peace, Brandon says, feels dirty.
Oh, wow.
So it's not a real peace.
Yeah.
It's just something that's there to kind of cover things up.
So this subjective emotional element adds a crucial layer.
Yeah.
The contrast between the absence of true peace and the deceptive nature of the false peace offered by this leader speaks to a spiritual dimension of the events as Brandon envisions them.
Right.
It suggests a deep longing for security that is ultimately unsatisfying and potentially harmful.
Yes. And the reactions aren't uniform globally.
Okay.
Brandon specifically sees people in the Middle East, in Iran, Iraq, and Pakistan, rejoicing and proclaiming this man to be the Mahdi.
The Mahdi.
Which is a significant figure in some Islamic traditions.
This specific religious and cultural identification is fascinating.
Yeah.
It connects this figure in Brandon's vision to existing messianic expectations within certain Islamic beliefs.
Yeah.
Suggesting a potential point of convergence.
Right.
Or even manipulation on a global scale.
Yes. And then the narrative takes a sharp turn.
Okay.
Focusing on an attack on Scripture.
On Scripture.
Yeah, this new leader appears on TV again.
Okay.
This time issuing a mandate that all Bibles be collected and brought to stadiums and courthouses.
Oh, wow.
And according to Brandon, people willingly comply with this order.
Willingly.
Willingly.
That's really interesting.
Resulting in massive piles of Bibles.
The willing surrender of religious texts.
Yeah.
By a large segment of the population is a powerful image.
It is.
It could suggest a number of things. Widespread fear of the new regime. Perhaps a disillusionment with previous beliefs in the face of these events.
Sure.
Or even a calculated compliance hoping for leniency.
Right.
Like if we just go along with this, maybe things will be okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Following this, a system is implemented to record who brought a Bible.
Oh, wow. So they're keeping track.
And here's a chilling detail.
Okay.
Those who want to check them out again are marked and placed under surveillance.
Under surveillance.
Creating a surveillance state that Brandon likens to a library.
Oh, wow.
So, it's like they can check it out.
Right.
But we're watching you.
Exactly.
This really highlights how something seemingly innocuous can become a tool of control.
Exactly. The act of wanting to access religious texts.
Right.
Becoming a trigger for surveillance.
Yeah.
Underscores the insidious nature of this control.
Yeah.
It's a subtle yet powerful way to monitor and potentially suppress dissenting beliefs under the guise of managing information.
Right. It's just a library.
Exactly. No big deal.
Within just a couple of months.
Okay.
Brandon then sees a football field with a massive sign constructed out of Bibles.
Wow.
Several stories high.
Oh, my goodness.
And this isn't a display of reverence.
Right.
By the leader's direct order, all of these collected Bibles are burned.
Oh, my goodness.
Just a huge bonfire of Bibles.
The symbolic act of publicly burning the Bibles is a forceful and dramatic rejection of the Christian faith.
Right.
And its foundational text within Brandon's vision.
Yes.
The sheer scale of this event.
Yeah.
A sign made of Bibles on a football field.
Yeah.
Emphasizes its public and intentionally provocative nature.
Right. It's a statement.
It is.
So from the ashes of these Bibles, a new symbol emerges.
Okay.
National flags are replaced on every courthouse with the leader's personal flag.
Oh, wow. Okay. So New World Order.
A new world order.
Literally a new flag.
Yeah. Brandon describes it as a black flag.
Okay.
Incorporating green and white elements.
Okay.
With gold swords prominently displayed in the center.
The replacement of national symbols.
Right.
With a singular global flag powerfully signifies the consolidation of power under this new leader and the suppression of individual national identities.
And the colors and the symbols likely hold significance.
Right.
But Brandon doesn't elaborate on that.
Oh,
However, he does understand the meaning behind the colors.
Oh, he does?
Yeah. He says each color on the flag represents a terrorist group.
A terrorist group.
Yes. He specifically mentions ISIS and alludes to others, but doesn't name them directly.
Okay.
You know, to avoid issues with his video.
Not a very good idea.
Right.
Yeah.
He says that these groups are essentially thanked for their role in supporting the leader's rise to power. So they're in league with each other.
This connection between the new global flag and known terrorist organizations provides a disturbing context for the leader's ascent in Brandon's account. It suggests a potentially dangerous alliance or reliance on these groups to establish and maintain his authority.
Exactly. And the narrative then shifts to the imposition of mandatory worship.
Okay.
Every Friday, worldwide worship of this new leader becomes compulsory.
Compulsory, wow.
People are required to wear white outfits, robes and head coverings for both men and women.
So very specific.
Very specific.
Yeah.
And stand in single file lines.
Okay.
In town squares and similar public areas.
The establishment of a mandatory day of worship with specific dress codes and public displays underscores the totalitarian nature of this regime in Brandon's vision.
Yeah.
It's about enforcing not just obedience, but also outward conformity and allegiance.
Exactly. You must participate.
Yes.
So massive screens are erected displaying the leader, and people are compelled to worship him through these screens.
Oh, wow.
Regardless of their physical location.
So it doesn't matter where you are.
Doesn't matter where you are. Brandon even gives examples in Rome and his own local area, highlighting the global and technologically mediated nature of this enforced adoration.
The use of technology, specifically these large-scale public screens, to facilitate and enforce worship on a global scale is a chilling detail.
Yeah, it's like...
It's Big Brother-ish.
Very. Yeah. So now the focus turns to the Christians who were left behind.
Okay.
Brandon observes that many of them had lived lives that appeared godly on the surface.
Okay.
But were actually quite compromising.
Oh, so it's not truly devoted.
Right. He believes these are the people Jesus speaks of in Matthew 7:22-23, those who performed acts in his name, but were never truly known by him.
That passage, for those unfamiliar, speaks to a potential disconnect between outward religious practice and an inward, genuine relationship with Jesus.
Yeah. So you can do all the right things.
Yeah.
But if your heart's not in it, you're not really following him.
It's about the internal, not just the external.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He also saw pastors who had preached what he calls a watered-down grace message.
Okay.
Left behind as a form of judgment.
Okay.
Facing the intense anger of those they had supposedly misled.
The idea of religious leaders being held accountable and facing the wrath of their former followers paints a stark picture of the spiritual and emotional turmoil in this post-rapture world as Brandon envisions it.
They're angry.
Yeah.
They're like, you told us this and it didn't happen.
Right. We trusted you and now look where we are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But amidst all this despair, Brandon sees some groups of believers starting to form colonies.
Okay.
Trying to prepare for the increasingly difficult conditions and seeking refuge in mountainous regions.
So they're banding together.
They're banding together, trying to find somewhere safe.
This detail introduces an element of resistance and resilience within the Christian community.
Yeah.
Despite the widespread persecution, there are those who band together, seeking safety and attempting to continue their faith in secret.
Right. Kind of an underground thing.
Yeah, an underground movement.
Brandon also shares a specific detail about the age demographics of the rapture.
Okay.
As he saw it, all children under the age of accountability.
Okay.
Which he specifies as being below 15 years old were taken.
Taken.
Yes.
So there's an age limit.
There's an age limit.
Yeah.
Those older were left.
Okay.
If they didn't have that personal relationship with Jesus.
Right. So age isn't the only factor.
Age is the only factor. No.
Okay.
He also notes that children are born during the tribulation period.
Okay.
So life goes on.
That specific age threshold and the fact that life, including birth, continues during this tumultuous period raises complex theological questions.
Absolutely.
About God's plan and mercy.
Right.
It provides a very detailed picture of the demographic impact of this event as Brandon perceived it.
Right.
Yeah.
The struggle for survival intensifies in the next scene. Christians are taking refuge in makeshift shelters, like holes dug into mountainsides for warmth.
Wow. So they're really roughing it.
They're roughing it.
Yeah.
They can't openly buy groceries because of the impending mark of the beast.
The mark of the beast.
Yeah.
Right.
A future identifier often associated with allegiance to the Antichrist and economic control.
Yeah. So they're being excluded from society.
They are.
Yeah.
They're forced to move at night to avoid being detected.
It's like they're living in the shadows.
They are. They are.
The imagery of Christians living in hiding,
Right.
resorting to basic shelters and clandestine movements, powerfully illustrates the extreme persecution they face in Brandon's account and the looming threat of the mark of the beast and its impact on daily life.
Right.
Further heightens the tension and desperation.
Yeah. They can't buy food. They can't do the normal things.
Exactly.
And interestingly, Brandon mentions that some farmers with personal firearms still exist.
Oh.
He recounts an instance where a farmer alerts authorities to Christians crossing his land at night.
Interesting. So not everyone is on board with the new regime.
Not everyone.
Yeah.
This suggests that not everyone in this future society is necessarily aligned with the persecuting regime.
Yeah, it's not a black and white situation.
It's not.
Okay.
It's very gray.
The presence of armed civilians and the instance of a non-believer actively reporting Christian activity highlight a potentially fragmented society.
Yeah.
Where allegiances and motivations might vary.
Right.
It's not a monolithic landscape of persecution.
Right. So then we have these really ominous black Hummer trucks with eerie blue infrared lights.
Oh, wow.
Driven by figures in black masks and hoods.
Okay, that sounds very scary.
Yeah, this clearly represents an oppressive force.
Yeah.
These are armored vehicles used by the persecutors, and Brandon says that the Christians try to create roadblocks to slow them down.
Wow, so they're actively resisting.
Yeah, but, they're outmatched.
The description of these vehicles and their mysterious occupants creates a very menacing image.
It does.
Of a well-equipped and ruthless force dedicated to hunting down those who resist.
Yeah, and the Christians' attempts at resistance, however futile they may seem, show their determination. Right? They're not going to give up easily.
Yeah, they're going to fight for their faith.
Exactly.
Okay.
So these persecutors utilize unique pulse guns.
Pulse guns? Yeah. What are those?
They emit an electric or magnetic energy wave.
Okay.
Capable of knocking people unconscious without the need to reload.
Wow, that's a pretty advanced weapon.
Brandon says he had never seen anything like this technology before.
The introduction of this advanced, non-lethal incapacitation technology adds a somewhat futuristic element to the narrative and underscores the power imbalance between the persecutors and the persecuted.
Right. They don't stand a chance against this kind of technology.
Exactly.
And then comes a truly horrific scene. Brandon describes a father who refuses to take the mark for himself and his young children who were born during the tribulation and are around 3 to 5 years old.
Very young.
Very young. As a consequence of his refusal, he is beheaded with a sickle or a sword.
That is just awful.
It is.
This is a deeply disturbing and graphic depiction of the brutal consequences of refusing to comply with the new regime.
Right.
It emphasizes the extreme persecution and the horrific choices individuals face in Brandon's vision.
Yeah, it's a very powerful image.
It is.
Tragically, the mother, witnessing this brutal execution, agrees to take the chip.
Oh, wow.
And here's where it becomes incredibly unsettling.
Okay.
Brandon says that the mother and her children instantly lose all emotion.
What?
They stop crying and become seemingly apathetic.
Oh my goodness.
Almost zombie-like.
The immediate and drastic psychological effect of the chip,
Right.
as described by Brandon,
Yeah.
is a chilling detail. The suppression of fundamental human emotions raises profound questions about the nature of identity and control in this envisioned future.
Right. It's like they're not even human anymore.
Yeah, it's dehumanizing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He then recounts a suicide attempt by a man holding the chip in his hand.
Okay.
And he's then calmed down by a signal emanating from the chip.
Wow.
Preventing him from jumping.
So the chip can control your thoughts and emotions.
Yeah. This suggests that the technology has the ability to directly influence thoughts and emotions.
Wow.
Even to the point of preventing self-harm.
Right.
Presumably, to maintain control over the population.
Yeah, this further reinforces the idea of the chip as a comprehensive tool of control.
Yeah, it's not just about buying and selling.
Right.
It's about controlling you.
It's about controlling your mind.
Yeah.
Wow.
Brandon continues to describe people with the chip as being physically present, but emotionally unresponsive.
Oh, wow.
Like zombies.
Okay.
Even while performing mundane tasks like mowing the lawn.
That's creepy.
It is barricades and checkpoints are established around towns.
Okay.
And the chip is required for entry.
Right.
Those without it are given the stark choice. Take the chip or face immediate beheading.
Wow.
He recounts another graphic instance of a woman attempting to fake the mark with makeup.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
These details paint a stark picture of a society rigidly divided, where the mark isn't just an identifier, but a fundamental requirement for participation in everyday life.
Yeah.
The emotional detachment of those with the chip underscores the dehumanizing aspect of this technology as envisioned by Brandon.
It's terrifying.
It is.
He also mentions that the chip causes painful burn-like sores on the head and hands of some who receive it.
Wow.
And he draws a connection to nanotechnology research.
Okay.
On chips used for tracking pigs.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Describing the Tribulation chip as being incredibly small.
The physical side effects and the comparison to existing animal tracking technology offer a disturbing sense of plausibility to the envisioned technology.
Right.
The small size makes it even more insidious, capable of being implanted almost imperceptibly.
Right. You might not even know you have it.
Exactly.
The narrative then shifts to the harsh winter conditions in the mountainous refuge areas, leading to widespread death from starvation and the cold.
Oh, wow. So the environment is also against them.
It is.
Yeah.
And then Brandon describes the skies being filled with thousands of drones. Creating a loud, constant buzzing sound like swarms of bees.
That's an unsettling image.
It is.
Thousands of drones.
Yeah. The combination of environmental hardship and relentless surveillance creates a sense of inescapable pressure on the remaining Christians in Brandon's vision.
Yeah.
The drones represent a ubiquitous and ever-present threat.
Yeah, you can't hide from them.
You can't.
Wow.
So these drones operate in a coordinated sequence, constantly scanning the landscape, using body heat and motion detection.
Wow.
The chip in the hand or forehead of those who have taken it reports their status to the drones.
So they know exactly where they are.
They know where they are.
Wow.
This forces Christians into extreme hiding, often digging into hillsides and keeping fires minimal to avoid smoke detection.
So they can't even stay warm.
They can't even stay warm.
Wow.
Even gunshots become a liability.
Right.
Alerting the drones and hindering their ability to hunt for food.
Wow. So they're really trapped.
They're trapped.
The comprehensive nature of the surveillance system, utilizing multiple detection methods and linked to the mark itself, paints a picture of a highly efficient and oppressive control mechanism.
Right.
Survival becomes an almost impossible feat for those who refuse the mark.
Right. If someone without the chip is detected, authorities are immediately alerted and pursue them relentlessly.
Wow, so there's no escape.
No escape. Ultimately leading to the same ultimatum, the mark or death.
So it all comes down to that choice.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then suddenly, Brandon finds himself in Israel.
In Israel.
Standing at the base of a large temple on the Temple Mount with massive stone columns.
Wow.
He looks up to see the Antichrist standing on a podium positioned between these columns.
Okay.
Flanked by two other men.
Other men?
One he recognizes but doesn't name.
Okay.
And the other is olive-skinned with darker hair.
Okay.
Possibly representing another religious faction.
The shift to Jerusalem and the Temple Mount is a pivotal moment
It is.
In many interpretations of end times prophecy,
Yep.
often seen as the location for the ultimate confrontation.
Right.
And the presence of other figures alongside the Antichrist
Right.
suggests a coalition of powers
Right.
supporting his reign.
Yeah.
Okay.
As this happens, lightning bolts fill the sky,
Okay.
but strangely do not strike the ground.
So just a show of power.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Antichrist then makes his ultimate proclamation,
Okay.
declaring himself to be God
Oh, wow.
on the Temple Mount.
That's blasphemous.
Yeah, this event is often referred to as the abomination of desolation.
The abomination of desolation.
Brandon's description of his appearance has changed.
Okay.
He now has a salt and pepper beard and hair, although he's not bald.
Okay.
And he's wearing a white turban-like head covering.
Okay.
And glasses.
Interesting.
Brandon estimates his height to be around 5 foot 11 to 6 feet.
Okay.
And his weight in the 195 to 215 pound range.
So he's got a pretty specific image of this guy.
Yeah, he's got a very clear picture of him.
The Antichrist's self-deification in the temple is a key event.
It is.
In many eschatological timelines.
Right. Yeah.
And the detailed physical description provided by Brandon offers a specific image of this figure at this critical moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Brandon describes the Antichrist's demeanor as confident, almost like James Bond.
Like James Bond.
Yeah. And notes that he speaks with intelligence and great persuasive power.